What is something illegal you have done and got away without getting caught? I used to have a total lead foot. One day I was driving to my ex-wife's parents' house by myself. They lived in a small town right off of the freeway. Now, on the freeway I was driving about 130 kilometers per hour, which was standard for most drivers. When you pull off the freeway, it immediately drops to 45 kilometers per hour. So I pull onto this main drag and start driving through the town. I'm about a mile down when suddenly I notice a police car pull up behind me. I look down and see that I'm driving at 70 kilometers per hour. A few things hit all at once. First, I couldn't afford a ticket. I was 20 miles over. I would have ended up with a $200 plus ticket just because I failed to decelerate. I was only 3 blocks from my in-laws and the officer hadn't turned on his lights yet. For reasons only known to me, I immediately pulled over, turned off the car and started walking. The officer pulled up behind me, not knowing what to do, but still with no lights turned on. I just kept walking without turning around. I get to my in-laws and tell them what happened. They tell me that I have to go back for my car, so I do. The officer was gone. No consequences whatsoever. Never received a ticket in the mail, never heard a thing. I would never ever do it again. And that's how I got out of a major speeding violation. I brought 2 or 3 Cuban cigars back to the US from Montreal once. When we cleared the border I turned to my parents and used my favorite line from Futurama. Guess what your accessor is too? My friends and I didn't pay for our dinner at Steak and Shake this past weekend. I stood waiting at the register trying to pay for 20 minutes but no one came to take my money. It was 12:30 AM before we left. I might have a few pence from work in my drawer at home. This is not an admission of wrongdoing, nor can I attest to how they got there, if they are even there. I once kept a dead otter in my freezer after finding it on the side of the road. In the UK this can get a hefty fine and prison time without a license. Once I found out I released the dead otter into the wild. It was a bit like Free Willy, but with less movement. Stole a Blue Angels flag from the hangar they were parked in. When I was in the Navy the Blue Angels visited the air base I was stationed at. They proceeded to kick all of our planes out of our hangar, and I had to fix our birds out in the rain. In a fit of contempt, on the last day they were there I went into the mess and stole the flag hanging from the overhead beams. I still have the flag and wear it like a cape from time to time. Assisted in semi-stealing a car. Almost 2 decades ago my cousin calls my dad and says his car broke down. As my dad has friends with heavy equipment he figured my dad could get a trailer to tow it on. So my dad, my uncle and I go pick up a flatbed tow truck from a friend of his and drive 2 hours to pick up the car. We find it near where it should be on the side of the highway. So we load it up and go to a rest stop to secure it on the truck better. As my dad and my uncle are attaching straps I'm looking at the car and notice something is odd. My cousin's car, late 80s Audi, had broken speakers for whatever reason. They all stopped work, so instead of replacing them with normal speakers he used house tower speakers, big ones at that back seat and passenger seat. I'm noticing there aren't any tower speakers in the car. I pointed this out and they stop and start looking at the car, then check the plate number, they don't match. Cousin had a vanity plate. My dad immediately hooks the call, raises the bed and lets it roll off into a space at the rest area. We hop into the truck and drive off to find the car. We find it less than a mile away. Audi reliability jokes aside, what are the odds of 2 identical orders, same year, color and even rims and tires being broken down that close to each other? When I was a teenager, my Labrador got out of the yard and I finally found him at the pound with a bullet in his shoulder. I had to put him down. I inadvertently found out who did it. I spray painted his Corvette. After he got it repainted I did it again. Editing for clarity. This was a small town in the late 70s. I did tell the cops when he was shot, but we didn't know by who. They said they could do nothing. As far as I remember, even when I found out who did it, they said they couldn't help me. I found out who did it because my sister went to a party and a guy there was talking about a dog he shot. He lived in the same block where animal control picked my injured dog up. Of course Elle took my dog to the vet, but as a poor 16-year-old Elle did not have the funds needed for surgery. If Elle recall correct, I had the vet put him down. He was a sweet lad. I bawled my eyes out for weeks. One of the local cops was a family friend. He put 2 and 2 together, and after the second paint job, he stopped by my work and mentioned what happened to this guy's car and looked at me and said he hoped it wouldn't happen again. I took the hint and left him alone after that. This all happened over 40 years ago, but to the best of my recollection, that is what happened. I found out that this specific guy stole my phone from checking previous text on my account and calling numbers they were in contact with. He wouldn't admit he stole it, so I broke into his house via balcony, stole his laptop, and left a singed note to meet me and return my phone to get his laptop back. It totally worked and everyone got their stuff back. I stole a police radio from a TABC officer once, drunk as hell and underage at a club. I was on the dance floor at some club and her elderly lady asked if I wanted to dance. I was like, F***K yeah, cougar action. She then asked me to follow her, and I was like, F***K yeah, this lady F***KS. She then showed me her badge, and I was like, F***K. Officer took me to the back office of the club and threatened to take me to jail and decided on just giving me a fine. When she went to make a copy of my ID, she left her radio on the desk. I shoved that S***T in my pants. I have no F***King clue why I did this. Went outside and called my friends and told them we have to leave. Got in the car and showed them what my drunk ass did, and we all had a great laugh. Never paid the ticket and never received a warrant, so I guess I got away with it. I accidentally shoplifted some pudding cups once. I was at Target and was buying a couple of large bags of dog food which were in the basket part of the cart and several smaller items that were in the top part of the cart. I had tossed the pudding cups into the basket part before I put the dog food bags in and forgot they were there when I put all the smaller items on the belt to be rung up. They were hidden from view when the dog food bags were scanned. I saw them when I was putting the dog food bags into the trunk. If the lines weren't so long I would have gone back to pay for them, but 20+ minutes for a 99-cent item, I can live with that. If it were a more expensive item I would have returned to pay for it. I once overslept for an oral English exam, so I forged the letter I received with the date and moved it to following week. Showed it to my English teacher and she said it was probably a mistake, but I had to show it to the school dean as well to get approval for a reschedule. I showed the forged letter to him and he instantly *INSTANTLY* found a mistake I made in the letter and just casually said that the letter looked badly copied. I was sweating bullets at that point because forging a letter for an exam is a pretty harsh offense and could have gotten me suspended. But he just shrugged it off and gave me permission for a reschedule. I guess since I wasn't a troublemaker he just gave me a pass. The dean was one of the cooler teachers at school though. He loved SpongeBob, and if he gave you detention work, you had to make a SpongeBob figure with a sponge and such. I trespassed to condo car park to see inexpensive car. I stole a piece of obsidian from biology class. At the next lesson biology teacher came to our classroom and forced us to admit who stole an obsidian. I visited a abandoned building. Someone called the police and 30 minutes later we saw firefighters walking into the huge building just to search us. Flown with weed in my checked luggage. I was visiting the beach, and when walking home with a friend from a bar at 4 AM on a Sunday night, we came across a jet ski on the beach, being bounced around by the waves. My friend convinced me to ride it back with him the next mile to where we were staying. So we rode it in the ocean in pitch black, while a storm was out in the distance. Cool, not scary. When we got to our place, we rode it around until the sun came up, and then I found the jet ski registration. Found the guy on Facebook, played the good guy, and messaged him, and told him hey I found your jet ski at X location on the beach, then went inside. It was a pretty thrilling experience. I don't know how illegal it was considering it was a jet ski just left in the ocean, and I returned it, but it was still pretty fun. Edit. Wow, this blew up edit too, so I left out the part where I tried to start the jet ski, but it didn't start. It was pretty stressful because the waves were pretty big and I wasn't wearing swimming clothing. So when it didn't start, we walked a mile to a gas station and filled a Gatorade bottle with gas, got an Uber back to the jet ski, filled the jet ski with gas, and it still didn't start. I then realized the Qt-off switch was set to off instead of on, and I should have checked this, because I have my own jet ski, but I forgot to check it. Thanks alcohol. So we wasted way too much time getting gas. When I was high school, my mom and I went to Walgreens to drop out my prescription for Vyvanse, ADHD stimulant for those who don't know, and the pharmacist, who knew I regularly got 60 pills for a 30-day supply, told my mom that the prescription indicated only 30 pills, not 60. She told my mom that, in order to get the right number of pills, she would have to have my psychiatrist rewrite the prescription. Well, I was out of pills and had school the next day, so my mom was freaking out. She came back to the car with the prescription and explained that there was a line missing on a symbol used by the psychiatrist to indicate the number of pills per daily dose, and she was on the verge of a panic attack. I took the prescription sheet, observed the ink color and thickness, and asked my mom for a black pen. I carefully drew the extra line and told my mom to drive to the Rite Aid down the street, and I went in to turn in the prescription to get filled. I got my medication and we went home. TL. Doctor, my psychiatrist F***KED up my prescription and I fee it with a pen, forging the writing of a licensed professional. Well, you/biggest_snitch. One time I went to see Joe Biden speak during a campaign rally for the general election in 2008. It was at an apple orchard and the people who owned it had a basket of apples for Joe Biden and his staff by the stage. As soon as he left, I, along with half of the front row, got up and stole some of Joe's apples. They were among the best I've ever had. Sorry, Mr. Vice President, but if I had the chance I'd steal your apples all over again. Probably climbing a signal tower in Egypt. I realized afterwards that it was on military land. Then proceeded to climb it another couple of times. Oh, to be young and carefree. I went into CVS for 3 things: deodorant, the specific pencils I like to use, and a notebook. I grabbed the deodorant, perused the office supply aisle, and saw they didn't have the pencils I wanted, so I decided it wasn't worth it to get the notebook either. Feeling like my trip was a failure, I left. Walked out of CVS with the deodorant in my hand. No alarm went off. No employee stopped me. About 3 steps outside of the door I realized I just stole, however unintentionally. So I walked back in, bought the deodorant and 3 other items out of guilt. A few years ago I was working at Waffle House on the graveyard shift. One of my coworkers got really F***KED up on shift. Fistful of Xanax plus TWO4 lockers plus bowl of weed. Right at the busy time, she blacks out and planted onto the waffle iron I had just preheated. She burned a grid mark into her face. I had to pull her off, but some of her face skin came off. Called an ambulance, never saw her again. Worked the rest of the shift by myself. I was so shook up, was like 17 at the time, that I didn't realize until after I got home that I never cleaned her face skin off the waffle iron before the breakfast rush. So I accidentally ended up feeding a few people waffles with human face cooked into them. I was going on a camping trip with some friends and brought my gun because bears and such. I was traveling to a state that recognizes my concealed carry permit, but I had to pass through a state that didn't. I forgot to stop before crossing the border to unload the gun and lock it in its case away from the ammo. I should be in jail for life/s. Funny enough, I did the same trip the next year, but remembered and just had it unloaded from the get-go. I got pulled over for license plate light not working, and the cop asked if I had any weapons. I said yes. He then asks if it's loaded. I tell him no, it's locked in the case away from the ammo. Why? He asked. I explain I had to travel through X state which doesn't recognize my CC permit. Well, you're not in X anymore, you're in Y. Load that S***T up. He still wrote me a ticket. Used it twice and walked away, never calling the cops. Generally speaking, getting a pistol carry permit in New York City today requires a $20K donation to the NYPD. That's what I was quoted in 2012 anyway. Ed, okay, this blew up. Grammar/Babsy was ambiguous as to whether she shot and hit anyone. I know she did brandish it once. When telling that story, she did a hilarious description of a guy turning to run and immediately falling flat on his face after tripping over a garbage can. She was a tough old Polish lady who at her peak owned 6 small apartment buildings and really loved her daily snifter of Slivovitz plum brandy. She gave me a sip when I was 6 and I almost died. I got pulled for urinalysis duty in the Navy. The first class in charge, at a certain point, asked if I was cool and, without actually waiting for an answer, proceeded to toss one of the samples. Presumably it was for a friend who was going to piss hot. I briefly worried that this was a test and Mark Harmon was waiting to see if I would do the right thing. Then I realized it wasn't. Dude was just a res asterisk TBAG and I should turn him in. But I didn't, because it wasn't my turn to give a ref asterisk K. Make sure to like and subscribe for more daily content. Thanks for watching.